Hi, it's Sherry. Welcome to Canterbury Cottage. If you like room makeovers done on an extreme budget, then you are really going to enjoy my channel for the next few weeks. My oldest son, Nick, is moving in with his girlfriend, Amaya. And my youngest son, Spencer, is moving into Amaya's basement. Her basement was probably finished in the 1980s, and it is definitely in need of an update. So in today's video, I'll be flipping thrifted furniture and DIYing home decor to include in next week's basement makeover video. My son needs quite a few things, so let's get started. I thought I'd start with a little tour of Amaya's basement. The basement stairs lead into the living room space, which has an L-shaped soffit full of can lights. The floor is covered with peel and stick tiles, and the far wall has a built-in bookcase. The bedroom has some built-in cabinets under the stairs and a large picture window looking into the backyard. It also has a pass-through window looking into the living room. The small room behind the living room will be used as a mini kitchen. It has several built-in cabinets, although not a lot of doors. Luckily, it's the only room with acoustic panels on the ceiling. Recently, I've been seeing these round wall shelves in a lot of different stores and thought that I could make a similar one using hula hoops from the Dollar Tree. I painted both hoops with a couple coats of flat black spray paint. I had some scrap wood that came in the packaging of my patio pergola, and they were the exact size that I needed for the hula hoops. They were just cheap plywood, so I sanded them as smooth as I could with my orbital sander. I measured and marked 3 inches in on each end of the top board, and then attached the hula hoop on each side at those marks using a screw through the hula hoop and into the wood. I repeated this process with the second piece of wood. Then I flipped it over and lined up the second hula hoop with the first hula hoop. I just eyeballed this, to be honest. Once I had it lined up, I again used screws to attach the hula hoop to the shelves. While attaching the shelves, I scratched the paint on the hula hoops in a couple spots, so I just touched that up with some black chalk paint. I'm going to wait to see where this goes in the basement before I paint or stain the shelves. I purchased a plug-in wall sconce at the thrift store for just a couple dollars and removed the glass shade. Then I gave it a couple coats of black enamel spray paint. I purchased a small lantern at the Target dollar spot for just $5 and removed the votive candle and cut off the handles. The hole in the bottom was a little too large for the chandelier-type bulbs required by my wall sconce, so I found a washer in my stash and used some Gorilla Glue to adhere it over the hole. For just $9, I created a very modern boho wall sconce. I think it will be perfect over the nightstand next to my son's bed, and I can adjust it so that it points downward if he prefers. A few weeks ago, I came across an extra large glass vase at Goodwill for just $5, and I thought I had the perfect project in mind. First, I added some rocks and fake succulents to the bottom, And then I found a piece of driftwood that fit across the top of the vase. I was going to drill 3 holes in a planter to create a hanging planter, but then I found this beaded one in my stash and decided to use it instead. I cut 3 strands of twine and tied it around the beads, equidistant apart. Then I tied the top of the twine around the piece of driftwood a couple times. Once I was happy with the length of the twine, I cut off the extra and put a live plant in the pot. A lovely viewer named Donna Grossel sent me this picture of books that she made with street names as a gift for a friend who was moving away, and I loved this idea. I used a little goof off on a rag to remove the titles from some hardback books from my stash. Using Canva, I created new book spines with street names for each of my books. I printed them out on regular copy paper. Then I decoupaged them over the spine of my book by applying Mod Podge both to the back of the paper and to the book spine. Because I was making these for my son, I used colors that I thought would coordinate well with his new basement apartment. I found this Pier One table at Goodwill for just $9.99. One of the legs was very loose, so I think the previous owners might have thought it was broken, but the screw just needed to be tightened. I decided to paint the wood trim with black paint that I had left over from Amaya's living room makeover. The screws were starting to pull out of the lid, so I removed the lid and filled the screw holes with some super glue. When super glue dries, it is even harder than wood fill. When the glue was dry, I sanded it smooth and then painted over it. Now, when I reattach the lid, the screws will fit firmly in their former holes. There were a couple scratches on the top that I tried concealing with brown marker, but it didn't work, so I mixed together a couple different shades of brown acrylic paint that I had and concealed it that way. It wasn't a perfect color match, but when I wiped away the excess, the scratches were gone. If my son wasn't crazy about all the storage inside this table, I would keep it for myself. I know my son is going to need at least one more table, and so I looked around in my stash to see what I could find, and I came across this old TV tray that I thrifted quite a while ago. I also found this large basket tray that I thought I could attach to the top. The TV tray top was a little larger than the basket, so I cut it down to the same size using my circular saw. Then I sanded down the cut edges with my orbital sander. This was a strange TV tray that opened in the middle, so I used some super glue to secure the two sides of the TV tray together. Then I painted the legs with the same black paint that I used on the Pier One side table. I screwed a scrap of wood on the underside of the table to further secure the two sides of the TV tray together. And then I screwed the basket to the top of the TV tray. At first, I thought about painting or staining the top edge of the TV tray, but then I decided to attach some metal ribbon from Dollar Tree. I just adhered it using Gorilla Glue hot glue sticks. I thought about reinforcing it with a few small nails, but I decided that it really wasn't necessary. I wasn't loving the silver color of the metal ribbon, so I applied some antiquing wax over it, dabbing it to let just a little bit of the silver show through. Since there's not a lot of counter space in the kitchen area, I thought I would create a little coffee bar that could hang on the wall. I removed the handles from a basket that I purchased at Goodwill to hold K-cups. Then, just using a pair of scissors, I made two slits along the top back edge of the basket. I also purchased a leather belt at Goodwill to use to create straps for my basket. I formed the belt into a loop and used my drill to drill a hole through the belt and then inserted a metal fastener. I actually reused the fasteners that held the original handle to the basket. I made a second, smaller loop at the top so that when I put it on the rod, it wouldn't slide around. I just painted an old curtain rod black and used the brackets that came with it to hang it on the wall. And I picked up some S-hooks at Dollar Tree for the coffee mugs. My son has a very large gaming chair that he said he was finally ready to get rid of. And so to replace it, I found this office chair for just $4.99 at Goodwill. It really just needed a good cleaning with my little Hoover upholstery cleaner. He didn't like the wood legs, so I gave them a couple coats of that same black paint. There was a small tear on one of the armrests, so I sewed it closed with a slip stitch just to make sure that the hole didn't get any larger. Because I was pretty sure my son wouldn't appreciate vintage bird prints, I found these fun vintage textbook illustrations and printed them out to fit inside some inexpensive Dollar Tree frames. I'll link the site in the description box where you can find these free printables. You could print out images that have special meaning, or you could just print out a fun assortment of images like I did. I printed the images on cardstock and attached them with a piece of double stick tape inside a floating frame. I printed out 9 images to create a small gallery wall. I thought my son might like to have a bar stool in the kitchenette area, and I had an old broken one in my basement. It was missing one of the cross supports. So I cut down a dowel rod to create a new one. Once I had it tapped in place, I added wood glue in the holes in the legs. Then I painted the legs with the same black paint that I used on the Pier One side table and the TV tray table. I had a fabric sample that I purchased for $1 at a thrift store that was the perfect size to recover the seat. To get a professional-looking upholstery job when recovering a cushion, the secret is to cut off the extra fabric so that you can really pull it taut and firm on the underside of the cushion. Also, don't fold or create pleats in the corners. Instead, create small darts that you staple in place as you move around the corner. One of the few things that my son actually requested was a coat rack, and I found this solid wood one for $15 at a thrift store. It was well built, but the wood was really scratched up. So I removed the hooks from the top of the coat rack and then used my orbital sander to sand the entire piece down. I wasn't planning on restaining it, so I only sanded off the top varnish level, not all of the stain. I spray painted the hooks and screws with some black spray paint and then reattached them to the coat rack. I used a wax brush to apply a coat of clear wax to the wood to seal and protect it. The wood has kind of a raw, rustic appearance to it that I think my son will like. I have been seeing a lot of these bumpy lamps lately, and when I saw this abacus at Goodwill for $1.78, I thought I would try to make my own version of the bumpy lamp. So after removing the beads from the abacus, I began gluing them to a thrift store lamp using super glue. I used a spray accelerator so that the beads would adhere to the lamp on contact. Then I filled in the holes in each bead with some caulk, and then I went around the beads with caulk and smoothed it out with my finger. I let it dry for a bit, and then I went around the beads a second time with the caulk. When the caulk was dry, I sprayed the lamp and the beads with a coat of Zinsser white primer. To give the lamp some texture, I added some plaster of Paris to an old can of white paint that I found in my basement, and then I painted that all over the lamp and the beads. Although I liked the white color, I thought my son would prefer it if it looked like concrete. So I painted it with a coat of Waverly's mineral-colored chalk paint. And when the paint was dry, I applied a coat of white wax, dabbing it on with a wax brush. Last week, I held a giveaway, and here is the list of winners. If you see your name, please email me so I can mail you your prize. You can find my email address in the description box below. I hope you enjoyed today's video. You've seen the pictures of Amaya's basement, so I wonder which room makeover are you most interested in seeing? And if you have any thoughts or ideas on what I could do, please let me know because I am open to suggestions. Also, if you haven't seen my makeover of Amaya's living room and kitchen, I'll be sure to link those in the closing slide. Well, I've got a lot of work to do, so I better get going. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you next week. Bye-bye for now.